AI today, it's incredible what it can do, isn't it? Like generating text, creating images, spotting patterns.
Absolutely. The capabilities are just exploding.
But have you ever actually, stopped and thought, does it truly get it? Or is it just a super sophisticated mimic?
That's the million-dollar question, really. Performance versus actual understanding.
Exactly. And today, we're taking a deep dive into a really fascinating new field that tackles it's called Sophimatics.
Sophimatics, okay.
Yeah. Our mission here is to explore this emerging discipline that promises to evolve AI way beyond its current capabilities. And the idea is grounding it in centuries of philosophical wisdom.
And we're going to do that by looking at some excerpts from a really insightful work, Sophimatics, Bridging Philosophy and Advanced AI.
Yeah.
It's Volume 1, The Philosophical Foundations.
Right.
The authors, Gerardo Iovan and Giovanni Iovan, they really argue that AI can develop true understanding, move beyond just statistical stuff or pattern matching.
Right, because the core idea, as I understand it, is that Sophimatics aims to inject things like actual understanding, intentionality, purpose.
Context, even the experience of time.
Context, yes, and time, into what they're calling post-generative AI.
Post-generative. It implies a step beyond just creating content based on patterns.
Which sounds like a monumental leap from where we are right now.
It is. It's ambitious.
All right, so Sophimatics sounds big, but what does it actually mean? Let's break it down.
Well, fundamentally, they define it as an emerging interdisciplinary field. It's strategically bridging philosophy, logic, and advanced computational models.
Okay, bridging philosophy, logic, computation.
Exactly. And what's really key here is its core focus. It's designed specifically to go way beyond the purely generative AI systems we mostly see today.
Beyond just making more text or images that look like the input data?
Precisely. Instead, it emphasizes meaning, context, temporality, that experience of time we mentioned, and intentionality. These are seen as absolutely essential components for truly cognitive AI.
Cognitive AI. So thinking AI, not just doing AI.
That's the goal. The ambition isn't just finding correlations in data. It's about building a deeper framework for understanding and reasoning, something, much closer to human conceptual categories.
When I first read about this, the problem, they highlight this disjunction, they call it, that really resonated.
What do they mean by disjunction?
Well, they're saying current AI tech is just advancing at this breathtaking pace, right? But it often lacks meaningful interpretation. It lacks these philosophical underpinnings. So you have deep learning models doing incredible things, performing amazing functions, but without a solid philosophical interpretation behind them. It's like a black box doing magic.
Right. We see the output, but not the why in a deep sense.
Exactly. And then on the flip side, you have all this rich philosophical discussion about AI, but it often lacks, concrete technical implementation.
So the philosophers are talking theory, the engineers are building tools, and the two aren't really meeting in the middle effectively.
Precisely. It feels like two separate conversations happening in parallel.
Got it. And that's the gap Sophimatics is trying to fill.
That's the core disconnect they're tackling.
Right. And Iovan, they actually crystallize this into one core research question. It's basically, how can we implement philosophical and historical views in computer algorithms?
Okay, implement them in the algorithms.
To provide AI with more intentionality and a better understanding. And this is key. Beyond the existing generative models, statistical patterns, and symbolic structures.
Wow. That's the challenge right there. How do you actually do that?
It's a massive undertaking, teaching machines to genuinely understand, not just process.
So how do they even begin to approach something so ambitious? What's the method?
Well, their approach is pretty interesting. It's both historical and analytic. They're looking back, but also thinking forward critically.
Historical and analytic, okay.
Yeah, they break it down into four main approaches, really. First, there's something they call critical sin work.
Critical sin work? What's that?
It's essentially a deep dive into historical philosophical texts, but specifically looking for ideas that could inform modern computation. It's about creatively synthesizing old wisdom into new computational concepts.
Okay, mining the past for future algorithms. I like that. What else?
Then there's comparative analysis.
Yeah.
That's more straightforward, looking at how existing AI methods and specific philosophical ideas line up, or where they diverge.
Spotting the gaps and overlap.
Exactly. And they also apply source criticism. This means carefully evaluating philosophical concepts, but specifically through the lens of what AI actually needs computationally Is this concept useful? Is it translatable?
Right, so not just taking philosophy wholesale, but seeing what fits the computational context.
Precisely. And finally, and this is important, it all gets grounded in empirical research. They're focusing on cognitive AI, machine learning, and even AI ethics.
Ethics too, okay.
Yeah, ensuring these sort of grander theories actually connect back to the technology being developed today. It links the abstract to the practical.
That sounds incredibly thorough. A real intellectual adventure, like you said. So, applying this, what does it mean for the history of ideas in tech? The book takes you on quite a journey, doesn't it? Tracing this philosophical lineage.
Oh, it really does. And the connections they draw are often quite surprising, going way back.
Like how far back?
Pre-Socratics. They look at thinkers like Heraclitus, whose ideas about the cosmos being in perpetual flux. Well, they suggest that informs AI's potential capacity to adapt to constant change.
Huh. So an AI dealing with a world that's always shifting, not just static data.
Exactly. Think about real-time learning. Then you've got Socratic dialogues, the whole method of questioning and probing. That clearly influences how conversational AI could evolve, not just fetching answers, but engaging in a process of inquiry.
Like a chatbot that helps you think rather than just tells you stuff.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
And Plato. His abstract forms, his ideas about truth and error, the ideal. This offers a kind of foundational way to think about data representation and inference mechanisms within AI systems.
Okay, hold on. Plato's forms in computer algorithms. That sounds incredibly abstract. How do you actually translate something like that into code or data structures? How does that give AI understanding?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of it. Think about how AI currently sees a cat. It's often just recognizing patterns of pixels, right? Statistical correlations learned from millions of images.
Yeah, it knows what a cat looks like statistically.
Right. But Plato's forms push us to think about the essence of catness, the ideal underlying concept or structure that makes something a cat, regardless of the specific pixels.
The abstract idea of cat.
Exactly. So for Sophimatics, this could mean developing AI that moves beyond just classifying images based on surface features. It might involve trying to represent and reason about the concept of a cat, its typical behaviors, its place in the world, what defines it fundamentally.
Leading to maybe a more robust, less brittle understanding, one that doesn't get easily fooled by weird images.
That's the hope. Grasping the abstract category, the form, if you will,
Yeah.
not just matching specific visual instances.
Oh.
It's a deeper level of representation.
Wow. Okay, that's a fascinating angle. And it doesn't stop with the Greeks, right? You mentioned they dive into medieval philosophers, too.
They do, yeah. It's quite a sweep.
My mind is still trying to process Plato in code, honestly. How do they draw these later parallels, say, with medieval thinkers, without it feeling like, well, like a bit of a stretch?
Well, they're careful to focus on the conceptual structures, not necessarily the full theological context. Take Augustine's notion of time, for example.
Augustine on time. Okay.
Augustine didn't just see time as linear clock ticks, did he? He talked about it as a subjective experience, a distension of the soul, where past, present, future are kind of interwoven in our consciousness.
Right, how we experience time.
Exactly. So for AI, applying this isn't just about timestamping data points accurately, it's about potentially giving AI a way to understand the duration, the passage, and the significance of time within a context or narrative.
So an AI could understand not just that a project took 6 months, but maybe grasp the experience of that time, like that was a long 6 months versus a quick 6 months.
Potentially, yes. Or understanding sequences not just as ordered events, but as periods with character. It allows for much more contextually rich understanding and interaction, maybe closer to how a human remembers a long, difficult year versus just the calendar dates.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense when you put it that way. It's about the quality of time, not just quantity.
Precisely. And then there's Aquinas, his hierarchical structure of knowledge. Think about how he organized concepts from specific instances up to universal principles.
Like a taxonomy, almost.
Kind of, but a very reasoned one. This provides a potential framework for AI to classify knowledge based on context, significance, and relationships, moving beyond just flat databases or simple tags.
Building intelligence that understands levels of meaning or importance.
Yes. And again, it's about borrowing the structural insight, not the specific medieval metaphysics. Then you fast forward to modern and contemporary philosophers.
Descartes. Kant.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Descartes' dualism, mind-body problem, that feeds into discussions about AI consciousness. Kant's categories of a priori knowledge, things like space, time, causality, being inherent structures of understanding that can inform how AI might be built to process certain fundamental logical or structural relationships inherently,
So building in some foundational ways of understanding the world.
perhaps. And even post-humanist thinkers like Foucault or Derrida, their ideas about power, discourse, how meaning is constructed, these become really relevant when you think about developing ethical principles for AI, understanding biases in data, or how AI operates within social structures.
Oh, that's an incredible scope, linking ancient thought all the way to posthumanism and the nuts and bolts of AI ethics and function.
It really covers a lot of ground.
And it's important to remember, like you said, it's not just a one-way street, right? It's not just philosophy informing AI.
Exactly. The book also explores the other direction.
How the history of AI itself, from early symbolic AI through this massive boom in generative AI we're living through, and looking towards future cognitive AI, how that whole journey has been subtly influenced by these philosophical currents.
hmm And how philosophy continues to be shaped by AI, too.
hmm
Think about questions AI raises about consciousness, ethics, logic, how we interpret things, hermeneutics, or even how AI might perceive or create beauty aesthetics. It's a two-way influence.
A real dialogue between disciplines across time.
Absolutely. And all of this, as the authors frame it, coming from their perspective as, students thinking deeply about computational science, it's all aimed at one big goal:
Which is?
to better guide the field of AI,
Mhm.
to steer it towards more genuine understanding, more meaningful intentionality.
Yeah.
It's about building a better, more thoughtful AI, one that can truly learn and maybe even grow in ways we currently find hard to imagine.
So wrapping this up, the key takeaway from our deep dive today feels pretty profound. Sophimatics isn't just, another technical tweak or a new algorithm.
No, it's much more fundamental.
It really seems like a deep reevaluation of what intelligence means, especially for machines. It's urging us, developers, thinkers, everyone, to look back at centuries of human thought, at philosophy, at wisdom.
To build the foundation for the next generation of AI.
Exactly, to build artificial intelligence that doesn't just crunch data or mimic patterns, but genuinely understands and interacts with the world in a more meaningful, contextual, maybe even purposeful way.
And that leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to chew on, doesn't it?
Go on.
Well, if we can actually teach machines to understand time in a way that resonates with Augustine, or classify knowledge with the kind of hierarchical depth Aquinas envisioned, what new questions does that force us to ask about our own human intelligence, our own consciousness?
If they can grasp concepts we thought were uniquely human.
Right. What does it truly mean for our future when machines can potentially process not just data points and correlations, but also purpose, context, significance, maybe even meaning itself, and possibly in ways that are quite different from our own, ways that we haven't even begun to fully grasp yet?
That's definitely something to think about. What happens when intelligence isn't exclusively human anymore? Not just in function, but perhaps in understanding, too.
A question for the future, built on the wisdom of the past.